Well, I'm a firm believer of transformation, education, and diplomacy, and maybe also partly because I am part of Generation X. But let me first introduce myself, tell you who I am. You heard that we are taking you now all the way to Central Europe. If you are ever looking for the geographical center of Europe, you will find it in Slovakia. If you are looking for a place where there is the greatest number of spas or greatest number of medieval castles per square mile, you also can go to Slovakia. But I'm a mountain boy. I come from, for me, the most beautiful mountains in the world, the High Tatras. I was born and raised in former Czechoslovakia in the 70s and 80s during the communist regime, as many of you will recall. Well, at that time, we were taught at school to listen and to answer only when you are asked. So, is it a good beginning or a good basis for a future diplomat? Probably not. But despite all that, I started thinking about becoming a diplomat already in high school. But at that time, I didn't quite fancy the idea of going to study diplomacy to Moscow because it was not possible to study diplomacy in my own country. So I thought, well, maybe an alternative solution could be opting for studying foreign languages or linguistics. So that became my alternative route to diplomacy. But it took a while. First, I graduated university with a degree in teaching foreign languages. I became a high school teacher of English and Russian for 7 years during the most exciting period of democratic changes and major transformation of the country that was brought about by the 1989 Velvet Revolution. You remember President Václav Havel, Alexander Dubček worked together, and they came out of the basements where they were hiding, or in Havel's case, even prison, and they started engaging publicly again. This was really exciting. It was transformational. The democratic changes, the transformation of the socio-economic sphere, but everything was changing, and it was really exciting. I'm proud to say that in Slovakia, in Bratislava, the changes started at my university, and of course, it's unforgettable how we took it to the squares and how we used our key bunches, and we started to do this. This is the way how we signaled to the communist leadership that it was time to go. And we succeeded, and of course, this is something that makes me proud even today. But it was just the beginning. And I would like to say that the most amazing part of all that has been the new opportunities that have been created, but the new opportunities that somebody had to also take advantage of. And I was very happy to be a part of this opportunity game. I was happy to offer opportunities to my students, and boy, did I have excellent students, those 90s, eager to learn, hungry for wisdom, engaged, active. But I got some good opportunities of my own, and I'm blessed in that sense. Studying abroad in the United Kingdom, in some other parts of Europe, but most importantly, doing my Fulbright teacher exchange in Los Angeles, California. I was teaching English as a second language at the Los Angeles Harbor College, taking classes at UCLA, and indeed, it was something that made me a diplomat. So, in fact, it is Los Angeles, it is Fulbright, it is Californians who are responsible for making future diplomat representing Slovakia at the United Nations. Maybe a paradox, but life is full of paradoxes, and this is a very positive one. In fact, it was communication, engagement, being open, and also not being afraid. These are the key elements that I learned during my Fulbright in California. They also taught me in a Hollywood class some basics of standard American dialect. And I learned how to use open American vowels. Of course, I don't necessarily speak like that all the time, but it's there. It's somewhere as a part of me. So Maya Angelou actually said, when you learn it, you do it. So is actually what happened to me, and I was very happy after the Fulbright experience to start the new journey. I joined the Foreign Service of Slovakia in 2000 during, again, very transformational period at which Slovakia was in the process of integration into the European Union and NATO. And it really opened completely new horizons also for a diplomat. Well, some of you would recall that there was a Secretary of State of the United States called Madeleine Albright. Unfortunately, she passed away quite recently. We're very sorry to lose her. And you would remember that she was actually born in Prague, in former Czechoslovakia. She came to the United States and rose through many important positions, including becoming the first female United States Secretary of State. We still continue being very proud of her. But why I'm mentioning her is that in mid-90s, she actually at one point referred to Slovakia as the black hole of Europe. Very painful, especially coming from US Secretary of State who knows you well, who knows you better than anybody else. But actually, the reason she did that was she was trying to help us. And she did a great deal because it was a wake-up call. My main message for you today is threefold. First, how to best take advantage of the opportunities that you get and that you can use. Second, how to turn those opportunities into transformational ones. And third, how to also ensure that you give back opportunities that you have received, or maybe others in a new way, to the succeeding generations, especially to our young people. Well, that has been a strong component of my life and of my professional career. And it can be briefly summarized in 3 Ps: people, participation, and partnerships. I've been very strongly committed to doing those 3 Ps because it is only through focusing on the needs of people, including and especially our young people, through ensuring that everybody participates, including women, children, including the vulnerable, the disabled, and others. And of course, none of that would be possible without important partnerships. I have a very dedicated but young diplomatic team here in New York, and probably they would tell you that I tell them all the time to focus on 3 important areas. First, consistency. Second, initiative. And third, cohesion. Because through these values, I believe we can well summarize what modern diplomacy actually means, how we need to engage. Well, let me demonstrate it on 1 or 2 stories that I would like to tell you. I was fortunate enough to receive some important opportunities, including from the best ones, from my mentor and former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Eduard Kukan, who also unfortunately recently passed away. But I was also fortunate enough to get some wonderful professional experiences. It is the second time that I have served now at the United Nations in New York. But also, I served as ambassador to Kenya and 11 other countries of sub-Saharan Africa. And boy, it was quite a defining experience. And that's part of the stories that I would like to tell you. The first one is related to the highest executive of one of the countries in Africa that I was serving in. And, after a couple of years of engagement and excellent cooperation, I had left. And then I came back sometime later, accompanying my president, who for the first time was visiting a country in sub-Saharan Africa. And suddenly, I realized that the head executive of that country still remembered the former ambassador, and somehow specially acknowledged me. I was very surprised and humble. But later, I asked a minister who was accompanying my president why, and the answer probably will stay with me for the rest of my life. The answer was, because you actually listened to us. That was very powerful, and it really has given me further boost to continue engaging at the United Nations along the lines that I have just explained to you, and also to try to involve more and more our young people. The second story is also in Kenya, but it continues further into New York and into the United Nations. We were supporting an important IT project for secondary schools. We gave those schools, those teachers and students the hardware, the training, the software, the skills and everything. But yet something was missing. It's not enough to spoon feed or provide the basics. And then I thought, well, we need to inspire them. We need to engage them and get them more involved. So I thought, well, there are so many issues that we are struggling with, or they are struggling with in their lives, such as sexual violence, diseases, tribalism, a lot of poverty, and other major issues that most of us here in the Western world can hardly imagine. So I said, why don't you come up with suggestions how to bring about change into your communities, into your lives? And they did. You would be amazed how many excellent proposals and recommendations we have received. So then we invited them to come to the capital city of Kenya, to Nairobi, to the embassy, to visit the United Nations office there. And every year that I had the opportunity of serving in Kenya, we awarded 5 titles of ambassadors of change. And I can tell you that I have stayed in touch with some of those ambassadors of change up till now, and it's a very rewarding experience. Many of them have now graduated universities. They have set up their own businesses. They are making a huge difference, and this is something which really makes me proud. Well, but modern day diplomacy, especially at the United Nations, is probably not measured by the number of meetings or the number of reports, the number of meetings that you attend or the number of reports that you write. It should be measured by something else. I believe it needs to be measured by the difference that you can make. At least a small difference that you can make on a daily basis, and maybe a larger difference that you can make over a certain period of time. I am very committed to focusing on value-based diplomacy, which is based on freedom, democracy, rule of law, because this is the guiding principle for us also in this troubled world. And I don't have to give you any list of challenges that we are facing. Well, the plate is quite full, starting from peace and security, development, and human rights, the three basic pillars of the United Nations work. Well, President Barack Obama once said, and I will help myself with a small note. He said, "In a world of complex threats, our security and leadership depends on all elements of our power, including strong and principled diplomacy." Indeed, I'm sure you agree with me that we need strong and principled diplomacy. I would call it the soft power, but the soft power that can make a hard difference. And this is something that we need to work on and fight for on a daily basis. In conclusion, I would like to invite you to join me as ambassadors of change that can bring about change in your own communities, in your own line of business, in your own work, or in your important philanthropy or other types of activities. It's needed in today's world. I believe together we can make a huge difference, and together we can really also improve the prospects of our future. Because, my friends, the future starts today. Thank you.